See, as I keep emphasizing, I am very brief with these reports in terms of summarizing them for the audience, because if you want to read the details, you have to go back to the original report and read them. My goal is not to cover the entire depth of these reports, but give you enough salient points that you can pick up on what's most important for you. But yet, it can become quite a few podcasts because it's a nice long report. So here we are looking at AI for transportation. Obviously, you're looking at renewable energies, charging stations, and all kinds of vehicles, from two-wheelers to little cars to a van, a little truck to a big bus, and so on. So electrifying big vehicles is still considered a problem, but we are doing it, and there is of course data collection needed as the traffic patterns happen, and you can imagine that there are probably solar cells in these highways to some extent to track things, to maybe someday we'll have such a fast charging technology that as a vehicle is driving on the road, it's going to be charged, but nonetheless as fancy as it can get. And then you have battery packs, of course, which are needed for managing intermittencies and so on. That is typical of solar and wind. So just jumping ahead, what are the recommendations? Encourage collaboration between industry and academia to build better data sets and encourage joint model development and acknowledge exchange for material research. Support development of large-scale nonlinear surrogate models to improve prediction of material properties. Somebody is running a TV in the next room. Give me a second, I will stop it. Okay, so I suddenly got up and ran, and I had a little cramp in my calf. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue on the recommendations for AI, use of AI in a transportation sector. So obviously we're talking about encouraging collaborations and co-building models. Support development of large-scale non-linear surrogate models to improve predictions of material properties. Integrate AI-driven management systems in the battery life cycle to extend the time of use and optimize raw material efficiency. So whenever you talk about batteries, we looked here and we are talking about EVs. Range anxiety is always the most important one in terms of people's acceptance of EVs. How long can you go with one charge without having to recharge? People are anxious driving long distances with these, but the ranges are increasing now into several hundred kilometers, so people are getting more and more comfortable as well, right? So increase simulation capabilities to evaluate life cycle and infrastructure impact of innovative fuels. So hydrogen is a good example. And second set of recommendations: increase investment in sensor-driven infrastructure components that can provide data for ML models to support real-time decision-making and planning efforts. Establish privacy regulations for data collection, storage, and use in AI applications in transportation. Support infrastructure research that extends simulation capabilities to better capture the interactions between transportation and energy infrastructure. Establish large-scale pilot projects for intelligent transportation systems in collaboration with utility providers, fleet operators, and vehicle manufacturers, so that the circularity of the system, life cycles, efficiencies, everything works very well. Establish standards for communication technology and protocols for vehicle infrastructure communication. So when you talk about managing traffic and so on with IoT kind of approaches, then you need that communication protocol and system setup, right? Third set of recommendations: encourage technology adoption in public transport to increase analytics capabilities, develop regulations and incentives to facilitate the use of shared mobility solutions, support development and implementation of autonomous electric vehicles to increase vehicle efficiency. All these, they collect a lot of data. When you want to do analytics on the fly, you are collecting data, which is energy, cloud. So we have to constantly worry about renewable energies and reducing emissions just for running the AI systems. Okay. So in summary, Road transport then is a critical part of the global economy. Current modes of road transport rely heavily on fossil fuels, producing roughly 18% of global energy-related CO2 emissions. AI has significant potential to help reduce GHG emissions from road transport. AI can play an important role in several important areas, including batteries, sustainable biofuels, intelligent transportation systems, and shifts toward modes of transportation that emit less carbon. While the potential of AI in revolutionizing road transportation is immense, several barriers and risks must be addressed. Barriers include a lack of data, the absence of uniform standards for data, and a shortage of personnel with training in AI. Risks include bias, invasion of privacy, and increases in greenhouse gas emissions caused by deployment of autonomous vehicles, which are likely to increase total vehicle miles traveled as well, because you don't get tired of driving. You're sitting and doing something else, messaging, sending emails. The car is driving itself, so you will end up traveling much more. Okay. Then let's move to the barriers of this idea of using AI for climate mitigation. 5 groups of barriers impede the development and application of artificial intelligence to climate change mitigation: data, people, computation, cost, and institutional framework to manage the systems. So data, of course, availability, accessibility, and standardization are important, as we discussed before. People, so success obviously depends on people who develop, use, and evaluate the systems. 3 primary groups of people are involved, which require other details here that I cut off. Computing power, ability to simulate and run computations. Cost is a fundamental barrier that permeates and compounds the barriers discussed above. Training people, will corporations or governments do it? How much will it cost? And so on. Institutions are needed. AI is poised to transform the work of many organizations that have a role in climate change mitigation, including government agencies, private companies, and non-governmental organizations. A lack of leadership attention, thoughtful internal policies in these leadership attention, it's called, whatever reason, and thoughtful internal policies in these organizations could be a barrier to realizing AI's potential to help reduce emissions. Potential barriers include, in terms of institutions, I cut it off, so I am just randomly cutting off things. Okay, sorry, you can go back and read the report. So the summary of the barriers chapter then: 5 groups of barriers impede the use of AI for climate change mitigation. As we said, data, people, computation, cost, and institutions. Data and people barriers are among the most significant. AI depends on available, accessible, and standardized data. Such data are often lacking. The shortage of trained personnel can also be a significant barrier. AI for climate mitigation requires skilled AI developers. Collaborations between those developers and experts in diverse fields such as atmospheric chemistry, material science, electrical engineering, finance, and political science, and then users who are broadly educated in the basics of AI. Okay, the other important barriers can include a lack of computing power to train, tune, and run AI models, a lack of financial resources, and a lack of leadership attention and or clear AI policies within organizations. So even if institutions are set up, how they are run will depend on these factors of leadership and resources and policies, etc. Okay, so risks, I think I am pretty close to, no, I'm not that close, but this podcast is still only 9 minutes, so also let's read risks, and we'll change the title to include risks. What are the risks of using artificial intelligence for climate mitigation? Of course, bias, invasion of privacy, security, safety, increased greenhouse gas emissions by using AI. So bias in AI refers to discrimination that can arise when algorithms make decisions that perpetuate prejudices, reflect stereotypes, or amplify social inequities. There is evidence that people build these systems without intending to be biased, but their implicit bias is creeping into algorithms, and that can be pretty serious. Okay, the causes of bias include skewed training data and flawed algorithm design. Prominent examples include an AI-enabled hiring tool that favored male over female applicants because it was trained on historical data in which men were favored in the hiring process, and secondly, a healthcare algorithm that prioritized healthier white patients over sick black patients because the algorithm used healthcare spending as a proxy for healthcare needs. Privacy, of course, we all know what those are. Security, so all software programs are subject to attacks by hackers, creating security risks which have to be constantly dealt with. Safety, AI systems can create safety risks when they fail to operate as intended or have unintended consequences. So this is different than security. Greenhouse gas emissions. At present, greenhouse gas emissions from AI are modest, as we said before, but we need better data collection and assessment methodologies to improve the methods, skills, computational costs, and overall emissions from AIs themselves. Conclusions of this section then: widening the aperture to include the greenhouse gas impacts of AI applications and broad societal impacts of AI, the uncertainties become even greater. There is significant potential for the overall greenhouse gas benefits of AI to exceed its costs. This could happen, for example, if strategies for minimizing emissions from AI succeed and some of the emissions reducing applications of AI discussed in this roadmap deliver significant results. However, the opposite is possible as well. AI could increase greenhouse gas emissions if strategies for reducing emissions from AI fail and applications of AI that increase emissions overwhelm beneficial applications such as those discussed in this roadmap. Rigorous analysis of the broad sweep of AI's impacts on greenhouse gas emissions will require further research as well as better data and assessment methodologies than those that exist today. Okay, so the risk chapter then. Risks from AI from using AI can include bias, invasion of privacy, security, safety, and increased GHG emissions. Bias-related risks when using AI for climate mitigation include prioritizing certain groups due to differences in the data availability. Remember, we train AI with data and then we expect it to work based on those patterns and what it learns from there. So if you give biased data, you're going to get biased outputs as well, or biased decisions by AI. Privacy-related risks include unauthorized data leaks to third parties, personal identification, and even surveillance of people without telling them. Security risks can arise when AI systems expand the attack surface for hackers beyond that found in conventional software programs. So you have multiple systems connected with multiple nodes operating AIs and talking to each other. Many holes where people can get in and do bad things. Safety risks can be serious when AI systems fail to work as intended or have unintended consequences. Security and safety risks are especially acute if AI is used for real-time decision making, such as in operating factories or the electric grid. GHG emissions from AI computing operations are currently modest, significantly less than 1% of the global total. Better data collection and assessment methodologies are needed to provide a more precise estimate with high confidence. The amount of future GHG emissions related to AI is highly uncertain at this time. In some scenarios, GHG emissions from AI decline in the years ahead, but in other scenarios, such emissions increase significantly. So estimates themselves are not yet very solid. Okay, so we'll come back then and look at policies in brief. So they are brief and I'm going to be briefer as well. So let's leave this podcast here. I think we have a few more slides to go through, so maybe a couple of more podcasts. Okay, it's a nice topic, it's a nice long report which can be used for a full course, and I may end up doing that if I end up teaching elsewhere. Okay, so let's leave it here.